Are you a busy working parent, but you want to have very intentional connection points with your children? Well, stick around. I'm going to give you a top 10 tips on how you can really connect with your kids when you have those moments and hours with them. Hello and welcome to the Something New Show. I'm your special guest host, Jordan Linscombe. This show is all about how to create a life worth celebrating. And today we're going to dive into how busy working parents can better connect with their children. As a hardworking dad, my wife and I running 4 businesses and a not-for-profit, I find myself so often wanting to connect with my kids deeply, but when I have those moments where I have time with them, I often feel tired. And so I've tried to make a list and remind myself of what are some practical ways that I can really be intentional and take advantage of those moments with our kids, or maybe it's your grandkids in your case. But here are top 10 tips of how you can really connect better when you have those special moments together. The first thing I'm going to jump into, I just heard this in the last 10 days or so. I put into practice over the last weekend with my kids, and it's phenomenal. But basically, give your children or grandkids 4 objects to work with. And this could be at nighttime when you're going to bed. I did it at a couple restaurants over the last week, but just give them 4 objects. It could be napkins, Tabasco sauce, ketchup, and mustard on the table. And you ask them to create a story, and each of those 4 objects are a character. And so with that, it helps their creative juices start flowing. And especially if you have multiple people around the table or at bedtime, it's really fun to see how creative they can be with something simple as just basic objects around the house, around the table. We did this on Saturday. I had all 4 kids out. We had a special young man with us as well, too, that was hanging out with us. And it was really fun to just see all of them go around the table, have very different ideas, very different things that they were sharing. The little guy who was with us, he grabbed the Tabasco sauce. He's like, we're going to have the tobacco sauce right here and the ketchup and the fork. And they just went to town telling a story. So we had a blast. I encourage you to try it. Even my 14-year-old got into it the other night, and he had everyone smiling around the table, and it was a total blast. So 4 objects, let them tell a story with those as characters and tap into their creativity. The second thing I want to submit to you and suggest is what I call carpet time. And so with that, I'm 6'5". It's easy to just walk around, tell your kids what to do. Hey, this needs to be picked up. This is out of order. But I'm really challenging myself this year to have more carpet time. It's where you get down on the carpet, especially with your younger kids, and play Legos, do a puzzle, whatever they like to do, but get down on their level. If you have little toddlers, here's a third tip for you. If you have little guys, 1, 2, 3 years old, they are so used to seeing everyone just so much bigger than them, right? This is all the grown-ups that they're looking at all day long. It's not rocket science. It's simple. It's fun. But just give them a chance to literally push you in the nose, to knock you over, to push you in the forehead. Make it dramatic, fall over, act like they pushed you really hard, act like they're really strong, and you will see them light up because they're not used to being the strong person or the bigger person in the room. So literally get down on your knees or sit down next to them, start playing, make funny noises. I can't tell you how many times with our 4 kids that has made things so fun as they were toddlers and even as they get a little older as well too. So a 4th idea, this is really important. I just was talking about this with my good friend Scott Donnell as we were chatting the other day, and it's about work travel. So if you're a working parent and you have to travel on occasion, we have to be really mindful that we help our kids understand work travel is important and essential, but it's never more important than our family and our children. So the more that you can explain to them, where are you going? Who are you meeting with? Why are you having that meeting? And why does it have to be a travel experience? Help them really understand what's going on when you leave the house. But here's the kicker. More importantly, ask them for their ideas or if they have any suggestions on what could make things go well during your work travel. If you are a person of faith, ask your children to pray for you so you can have the best outcomes, the best results from all that you're investing in that time away from the house. And watch how they light up. Watch how they feel a sense of okay, mom and dad are asking me to lean into this with them. And then when you get home, report back. Tell them, how did things go? Who did you meet with? What kind of objectives or things did you cover? What kind of results did you get? Or what kind of seeds were planted out of those meetings and that time away from the house. But again, reassure them it was essential to do it. You had to. But when you come back, you're reassuring your family and your children of what's most important, and that's them and your relationship there at home. So incredible tip. We've put that into practice lately, and I absolutely love it. Okay, a fifth thing is children really have discernment, okay, of from a young age, even to their teenage years, and they can see things that we often can't as busy working adults. So I want you to ask their opinions if you are bringing in a new team member and it's appropriate for you to talk with your kids about this, or there's a decision that needs to be made. When you can, invite your children or young people into the conversation. Why? They have a superpower of discernment that some of us just kind of lose over time as we get older. And so the more you can do that, one, it helps them feel involved, but you might be really surprised of what they can pick up on about a person that might be new to the environment, new to your business, new to your home. Okay, maybe you're looking to screen a babysitter. Maybe you're looking to screen someone to be on your team. Get your children involved as much as you appropriately can. And I think they can really be a blessing and help you out if you take the time to listen and take their thoughts into consideration. Okay, another thing, a sixth thing, is having a family key word. In the Linscombe house, we've implemented this over the last year. And we came away with, what is a word that we can all rally around? What's a word that really means something with our family and our story? And so our word in our house is hope. And it's also an acronym. So one, it's an idea. It's a concept that we are so grateful for. When we keep hope in front of us, so much can stay alive. And we've gone through some really challenging things. One, just with life and miscarriages, a cancer battle for our second born. We're so grateful he's doing well by God's grace and by the doctor's help. But the word hope has just been an anthem for us. So over the last year, we worked with the kids and we said, hey, here's our key word. But we invited them into the process and said, if we make this an acronym, what are some of the things that hope would stand for? So we talked about it as we walked around in the neighborhood, as we went on some walks and scooter rides with them. And we landed on this. One, hope. H is for honorable. And it'll be honorable in how we show up, how we treat each other, how we treat parents, how we treat siblings, and how we treat others. Also, how just we're respectful of other people's time. You name it. We're going to be honorable in what we do as a Linscombe family. O stands for obedient. We're going to be obedient to God and how he asks us to live, how we're going to walk in our life, and how we're going to treat each other, okay? And that's going to get us so much farther. P is for persistent. We've learned over time, anything good you want to go after in life or do, it's going to take persistence. So we talk about that with our children a lot. And then E, for encouraging. We're going to be encouraging to each other as a family within our household and to friends, to family, to our community and beyond. So hope, H-O-P-E. It was beautiful to land that as a conversation as a family. And the fun thing is that we can tie that into Sunday night dinners. As we're around the table, we can have a conversation of, hey guys, what is our main word? What does hope stand for? And even our 6-year-old can come back and say, yeah, this is what this means. This is why we stand for this, okay? So start that with your family. Reach out to us if you have any more questions of how that works. But it's a pretty simple thing where you can get some powerful reminders and some values instilled into your children and involve them along the way so that they can help shape that for your family and for your household.
This episode is sponsored by Something Blue 30A. Looking for the perfect vacation spot to disconnect from everything, put your feet in the softest sand, and enjoy a fresh, renovated 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse right on the beach in my favorite place in the world? Well, 30A is situated in the Panhandle of Florida, and I'd love for you to check out Something Blue 30A on Instagram and make it the perfect place for your next vacation.
All right, let's talk about number 7. Is intentional dinners and conversation. So it ties right into the previous point and idea. But we've been trying to get really intentional, not only with talking about hope on Sunday evenings, but also like a theme going into it. So as parents, try to think what's a key concept you could talk about even once per month. So in the month that just happened, we were talking about giving at our house. What is it? What's the importance of giving? Why do we give? Why do we give first? From the money and the revenue we take home, why do we give off the top and make that an intentional stance as a family? And here's the cool thing is you have guests or people, that come into your home and you know they can speak into that, let them know or ask them so that your children can hear other voices reinforce these powerful topics. So Shay Cochran was recently here on the podcast a couple of shows ago. Encourage you to check out that amazing interview that she and Mindi had. But we asked Shay, with all of our children around the table, hey, Shay, what does giving look like for you and Graham, your husband? What have you guys learned over time? How have you seen God's faithfulness as you've given back and tithed? And it was amazing to see her unpack a very timely story, a very heartfelt, personal story of what giving meant to them. And our kids are all ears because it's a different voice. It's a different person at the table. So incorporate those moments. Be intentional about what you can discuss and how you can have others reinforce that. Sunday morning, I invited my parents over. There's Pawpaw and Gran. That's what my kids call them, all right? And I was asking my dad the same. I was like, hey, tell us, what have you learned about giving as you've given back, first over all of these years as you've tithed? And so my dad starts telling stories. And again, it's a powerful thing to see the kids perk up. He tells about, when they have given, how God has shown faithfulness to them throughout the decades and over 50 years of marriage for my parents. And then we got into other intentional conversation. Hey, Dad, can you tell the kids about your first small jobs and things that you did? And he literally breaks down the story that, so my dad's dad was a general contractor, roads, bridges, other projects when my dad was younger. My dad was telling my kids, he's like, yeah, my dad would give us bricks from an old building or a project, and they needed to clean off the mortar from those bricks. And so my grandfather would get my dad and his brothers, okay, here's this pile. I want you to clean these up, and then I want you to stack them like this. And you know how much my dad got per brick? And my second born's like leaning in. He got a penny per brick that he cleaned up. And so if you can incorporate storytelling like this around the table, you can incorporate reality checks for your kids from multi-generational conversation. It does so much beyond what's even said at the table, beyond what's shared there. So intentional dinners, intentional breakfasts, and conversations. Be ready to have good topics, good questions at hand for your kids. All right, number 8 is just snuggle your children. Take the time to make sure you're there at bedtime. It matters so much. If you've heard in other episodes, Mindi and I invest probably over an hour each night to try to connect with each of our kids, really help them feel a reinforcement of touch, that we care about them, that we're proud of them, that so many things are going right. So take that time to snuggle and encourage them. And then also read. Read together. If they're at a point where they can kind of show off and read to you, always cultivate those moments of how they can read back to you. And those make some really magical moments in the evenings or any time of day. All right, and number 9, we can talk about highs and lows with your kids. We know if you just say, how was school? They're going to say, good, or whatever the typical response is. Something you may have heard from me and Mindi is a great idea from our friend Elise, is talking about high, low, and buffalo. Like, what was your high of the day? What was your high point? What was the lowest point? And then buffalo means like something surprising, like caught you off guard, came out of nowhere, maybe something fun, spontaneous. So ask your kids that, hey, what was your high today, your low, or your buffalo, the fun surprise that you didn't see coming? All right, and a 10th and final tip for today. Take some one-on-one time with your children. We have 4. It is not always easy, okay? It takes some intentionality and some rhythm to it, but plan those one-on-one dates with them. And with this, we often challenge ourselves like, hey, how can we do this without it being like loaded with sugar? So we have an amazing ice cream shop around the corner. Sure, there's coffee shops, there's breakfast. All those have their place and they have their time. But I've found a lot of success and fun. If I could do like an early breakfast with one of our boys or Brooklyn sometimes, that's great. But I really want to challenge you as well to take the time to get your kids outdoors. Some of my best memories were one-on-one with my dad, or me and my brother and my dad, having some time in the outdoors. So depending on where you live, the more you can get them out, walks, hikes, something in nature to see wildlife. If you can have some of those special times just one-on-one, you will create incredible memories. You will reinforce with them how much you care, how much you love them. So again, those are a top 10 tips. There's so much more, but those are some practical things I want to encourage you. Again, if you're a busy working parent, when you get those times to connect with your children, It's not always easy, but you got to take advantage of it. So here's 10 easy tips to help you. And this, again, is part of how to create a life worth celebrating. If you have additional tips that you want to share with this community and the audience, please put them in the comments below on YouTube. We'd be honored if you would share this show with any other hardworking parents that could use this and benefit from these ideas. Also, take a moment to like, subscribe, and tell a friend about this. We're so grateful to have you a part of the Something New show. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow The Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.